Thursday night for a report of a suspicious device as 2 buildings were evacuated. Investigators say the device posed no risk and students were later allowed back into their buildings. Back in February, the Kansas Highway Patrol has reported that a trooper rescued a kidnapped 6-year-old girl after pulling over a vehicle for a minor traffic violation. The vehicle was occupied by 2 men in their 60s and the young girl. The passenger in the front seat had an outstanding warrant for kidnapping a 6-year-old girl a month prior, and the driver had a more extensive rap sheet with past homicide and weapons violations. The trooper, with help from a local sheriff's office, used their training to safely rescue the child, and now authorities are working to reunite her with her family. The number of measles cases reported in West Texas has now surpassed the total number of cases seen all last year in the United States. The latest number from Health and Human Services showed 309 confirmed cases. The epicenter remains a rural community that has one of the lowest vaccination rates in the state. Since then, cases have popped up in 3 new counties with doctors treating 40 patients in the hospital. They urge everybody to get the measles vaccine. In Kansas, the State Department of Health has reported 4 more confirmed cases of measles, bringing the state total to 10 in 3 counties: Stevens, Morton, and Grant. Early symptoms of measles are fever over 101 degrees, runny nose, cough, and red watery eyes. Typically, 1 to 4 days after these symptoms appear, patients will develop a red rash on their face that will spread throughout the body. Measles spread through the air by breathing, coughing, and sneezing and is highly contagious. If you find yourself with symptoms, be sure to isolate from others and seek help from your healthcare provider. The Colby Community College is hosting the Criminal Justice Expo from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. this Wednesday at the Bedker Memorial Complex. For more information on this and other stories, visit nwksradio.net.
Rocket 102.5.
Temperatures are starting out around 30 this morning with a light southwesterly breeze, and this afternoon will be sunny and warmer with northwest winds increasing 15 to 25 miles per hour and gusts up to 30 to 40. As a low track southeast across Nebraska and a high-pressure ridge builds out over the Rockies, that northwesterly flow will continue over the ridge tomorrow with lighter winds at 10 to 20 miles per hour, but more clouds. Highs today will be in the low to mid-70s and will be a tad cooler tomorrow around 70. Critical fire weather conditions will not be elevated either day due to higher dew points and relative humidities today and the lighter winds tomorrow. Wednesday through Friday, winds will turn to a south-southwesterly direction as high pressure expands eastward across the plains, leading to sunny and dry conditions, pushing temperatures in the mid-70s to upper 80s, possibly breaking some records on Thursday. This is meteorologist Chris Romick reporting from the NWKS Radio Weather Center.
Get ready for the Schilling Cattle Production Sale Wednesday, March 26th at 1 p.m. Central Time. With 60 Angus and 5 Limflex bulls and 10 Angus heifers, there's plenty to choose from. These are big, stout performance kind of cattle and great selection for calving-ease bulls. Check them out on Facebook at Schilling Cattle, or you can also watch the sale at TV Auction. The sale is located 6 miles north of the I-70 Exchange in Brewster, Kansas. Come check out great cattle, meet great people, and best of all, eat some fantastic food. So don't forget to mark your calendars for the Schilling Cattle Production Sale, Wednesday, March 26th, 6 miles north of Brewster, Kansas.
Spring is here, and Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware has everything you need for the season. Get your lawn looking its best with Ultimate Fertilizer and power up with Ego blowers and mowers. Got a project? They got a surplus of lumber ready to go. Plus, fire up the fun with their selection of grills and griddles. Hoover's is also proud to sponsor the Pioneer 5K, 10K, half, and full marathon supporting Colby Community College cross country on April 26th and remind you to sign up and participate. It's Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware in Goodland and Colby, your one-stop shop for spring.
Earl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland, Kansas is hiring now, looking for technicians of all levels and a service advisor to join their team. Enjoy competitive wages, consistent work, plus 401k and health benefits, all in a great work environment. If you're ready for a rewarding career with a trusted dealership, apply today. Visit them in person on South Commerce Road in Goodland or apply on Facebook. Join the Hurl Chevrolet GMC family today.
Out with the old, in with the new. It's time to refresh our inventory at Zimmelman's Jewelry in downtown Burlington, and that means you save big. For the month of March, all Frederick Duclos and Anya High jewelry is 50% off. Whether you're looking for sleek, modern elegance or bold statement pieces, we've got the perfect sparkle to match your vibe. Now is the perfect time to refresh your style with stunning jewelry from Frederick Duclos and Anya High. Treat yourself to something fresh, something fabulous, something you. Shop in-store Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. or online at Zimmelman'sJewelry.com.
Your livelihood is important to you. You work hard to succeed in your farming operation, crop, livestock, home, vehicles, and special needs. we have you covered. Discounts are available for new business, remodeling, hail-resistive roofing, multi-policy, and many more. Optional coverage endorsements as well for machinery ingestion and equipment breakdown. Umbrella coverage for additional coverage on your home, farm, and auto. See the girls at the insurance agency at 1020 Main in Goodland or call 785-899-5011.
If you're shopping for a banking institution, visit with Equity Bank of Hoxie, Grinnell, and Quinter, Kansas. The Equity Bank is heavily invested in local business and activities contributing in many ways back to their community. Their employees are involved with many organizations and area events. Plus, a lot of experience comes with that staff. You'll find valuable local assistance when you bank at the Equity Bank of Hoxie, Grinnell, Quinter, and other locations in Western Kansas. The Equity Bank, member FDIC.
At NextTech Wireless, we're committed to delivering more than just quality wireless service. We're here to provide you with exceptional customer support every step of the way. Experience our service risk-free for 30 days. Plus, for a limited time, get an iPhone 16 Pro Max on us when you buy one with our best plan and handset protection. NextTech Wireless, connecting Kansans.
You ready? One, 2, 3, 4!
It's the Morning Blitz with Ross Volkmer.
Give me my cane. I'll show you how to play this game.
The region's only local sports talk.
Dynamite drop-in at broadcast school has really paid off.
Broadcasting on Goodland's Rocket 102.5, simulcasting on Goodland's 730 Gold KLOE.
Guys everywhere.
Discussing it all from the preps.
Touchdown, the Cowboys!
To the pros.
And Timmy back on the track. It's out of here. Bobby Witt Jr. delivers a go-ahead grand slam.
The Blitz is presented by Pearl Chevrolet GMC, Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware, and F&B Bank, as well as the Insurance Agency, Farmer State Bank in Oakley, the Cowboy Corner Express, and Equity Bank of Hoxie, Quinter, and Grinnell.
Let's go to work.
Now Knipple on the hunt, zip it left, Proctor shot fake, step aside, 3 in the air again. Oh my goodness gracious. He knocked another one down. Tyrese Proctor cannot miss, 79-56. Duke the lead, 4:40 to go.
Glenn to the high post, Serena. Out left, Poindexter, corner side 3. She got another! Tamira Poindexter with 8 threes. Lob into Strack, back to Amor, baseline, missed it, it's over, it's over, it's over, Kansas State has done it!
Gillespie looking to throw it in, gets it up top to Queen, dribbling left, big step down the lane, runner for the win, banked it in, he banked it in, he banked it in, and Maryland has won, Maryland is going to the Sweet 16.
Okay, is there anybody out there who watched the Maryland-Colorado State game last night and thought, that probably was a travel? I know they broke it down a little bit later on with Gene Steratore, the CBS officials expert, which I have nothing against Gene Steratore, but I'm just curious if anybody watching that Maryland game last night thought for a moment, like, I guess in real life, it didn't really look like it. I don't know, it did to me. God, that looked like 3 steps, didn't it? But they're talking about how when did he gain possession? I'm just curious if anybody out there listening was watching that Maryland-Colorado State game last night in the NCAA tournament for the men and thought that winning shot by Derek Queen, which was very impressive, with 3.6 seconds left, takes the basketball from the top of the key, this 7-foot freshman, true freshman, dribbles down the left side and does a fadeaway kiss off the glass, which is just beautiful old school basketball in my opinion. But I'm just curious if anybody else out there thought that Derek Queen thing was a travel. I appreciate you, Debbie and Drew, chiming in on the F&B Bank text line at 785-899-2222, and people saying that it was a travel. I mean, according to the expert official, that was not a travel, but I'm telling you, that looked like a travel. And that was certainly, I don't know, I thought interesting, to say the very least. But nonetheless, at least we finally got a decent game in the NCAA tournament with that win for Maryland over Colorado State to advance them into the Sweet 16. Oh, gosh, that's great. Thank you, JD. I appreciate that. Said his son would have been called for a travel 100% of the time. Maybe. Thank you, JD. Appreciate that. Good chuckle this morning here on the Morning Blitz. But Yeah, that was an interesting call there, for sure, to say the very least, or the no call. But nonetheless, glad we finally got a decent game. Good Monday morning, everybody. Glad you're with us here. It is March the 24th. Going to be a beautiful week of weather. See temperatures anywhere from the low 70s up into the low 80s. I've even seen at times later on this week. So beautiful weather, plenty of sunshine, and maybe. I'm not gonna say it's going to happen, but maybe there's a slight chance of a little bit of precipitation coming our way in the weekend. So we'll get there. It might be the weekend or early next week, but nonetheless, at least warm temperatures expected this week, which is great because we do have baseball and softball seasons getting going here in the next week or so, week to 10 days. And good weather is always nice to have, particularly for those games, and especially for the broadcasters who sit outside usually. What nice warm weather, not cold stuff. So anyway, glad you're with us here on the Morning Blitz on this Monday. Today, currently sunny and 37 on our way to a high of 71. I'm sure there are some people out there wondering, why is Rolling Ross with us today? Why was Max not on the show Friday? Just to keep it short and sweet, I was informed on Thursday afternoon. I was given a call by the higher authorities in our company saying that Max was no longer with us. And so Max, unfortunately, will not be with us going forward here on the Morning Blitz for reasons. We'll just once again keep that in-house at this point in time. But I do want to, first and foremost, say I really enjoyed Max on the show. I had a great time with him tuning in or being a part of the program, helping out with the program with, of course, the Hurl Chevrolet GMC video stream. He did a lot of that stuff, and I really appreciate his time and expertise on that. I appreciate the conversations that we had. I really enjoyed having Max on. It was a disappointment to hear that he would not be joining us here for the coming weeks and for the coming months, but it was not my decision. Nonetheless, I appreciate Max being on the show and being with me here for the previous few months. I appreciate his coverage of Colby Eagles athletics. It was really, really good. And so I appreciate everything that he brought to the show and to our company. I want to say thank you to Max for being here. And we will miss Max for sure. But for the foreseeable time, at least in the future, you only have me to deal with now here on the Morning Blitz. So if you want to chime in throughout the program and give me your thoughts and comments on the show, we'd love to hear from you. Once again, on the FB Bank text line at 785-899-2222 as I'm flying solo for the foreseeable future. But it is Monday. We've got a full show ahead. Henry Greenstein's going to join us from KUSports.com and the Lawrence Journal-World. We're going to talk Kansas men's basketball as their season came to an end in the first round as they could not get past Arkansas, who is in the Sweet 16, by the way, with John Calipari, who upset St. John's. So we will visit with him as that comes to an end and thoughts on Kansas basketball this season that was and what to expect going forward. We'll visit with Henry Greenstein coming up in the program. But, of course, we've got a Monday edition of Weekend Winners and Losers to get to.
There are two kinds of people in this world.
There's winners and there's losers.
Which ones were which this past weekend?
I want winners. Loser? You're a loser.
It's the weekend's winners and losers on the Morning Blitz.
Going to be a winner, be a winner.
All right, we got weekend winners and losers here on a Monday morning. Going to start locally. How about the Kansas State women? The Kansas State Lady Wildcats with a win in overtime over another Wildcat squad, that one from Kentucky. This happening in the regional in Spokane, but this game first round was played in Lexington, Kentucky. So Kansas State had to go on the road. They whooped up on Friday on Fairfield, the Lady Stags. They beat them handily in a very, very convincing game, 85-41. Then turned around and had a much more competitive game yesterday afternoon, taking on Kentucky, and the Lady Wildcats prevailing in overtime, 80-79. What a game it was for Tamira Poindexter as she cashed in on 8 3-pointers. That was really, really an impressive performance from Tamira Poindexter. She goes out, has 8 3-pointers, including the go-ahead bucket with under a minute to play to give Kansas State what was the event that 80-79 lead. But that game was back and forth. Kansas State had a little bit of a surge late. They got down, came back. A great bucket from Serena Sundell that happened right before overtime to send a game into overtime. She had a turnaround jumper in the lane, kind of backed down her defender, a little fadeaway, and hit it in the middle of the lane. It was a very impressive shot underneath a little bit of pressure. And then Kansas State stood up defensively to send it to overtime and then had to do it again. I mean, in overtime, it was a frantic final minute. Kentucky missed 4 potential game winners. They even had a look along the baseline for a layup at the buzzer and could not get it to go. So Kansas State women escape, but I don't know if I want to say it was really an escape. Kentucky was the 4 seed. They were playing in Kentucky's home gym. That's how it goes in the NCAA tournament and for the women. And so they're playing there in Lexington, and Kansas State gets a road victory, advancing to the Sweet 16. And I believe it's the first Sweet 16 appearance for the Kansas State women, I believe in the Jeff Mittie era in quite a while. I would have to look up that stat on when the last time they went to the Sweet 16. But I don't know, maybe they went here recently, but really good showing once again from Kansas State. And like I said, Tamira Poindexter with that great performance. And she really struggled early on. She had 6 missed shots for her first 6 attempts. So she missed her first 6 shots, but she comes up hitting 8 3-pointers, and of course the one that sent the Wildcats to the Sweet 16 with that win there. So, well, winner of the weekend, the Kansas State Lady Wildcats. They have to wait to figure out their next opponent today. The women's tournament starts a day later than the men's. So the men, of course, go Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Women go Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And so they will await the winner of, I believe it's USC, who I believe that's who they're going to play. I don't expect Mississippi State is the other team, but it's either the number 1 seed USC or the number 9 seed Mississippi State. And that is who K-State will face up in Spokane, Washington in the Sweet 16. So that's what we will see happening there. Anyway, I was going through the FB Bank text line there for a second, but yeah, a great performance from the Kansas State women, in particular, Tamira Poindexter. We did have a texter on the FBB text line talking about the opening question I had right out of the gate for the show about the traveling. Since about the 2004 Olympics, 3 steps are allowed in the NCAA, no longer ruled as traveling. Right call. All right. Thank you. So 3 steps are apparently it's no longer 2 steps. You can get 3 steps to the basket and not get called for a travel in basketball. Anyway, K-State with a 80-79 win, improving to 28-7 overall. A nice road win over Kentucky, and they get it done. They'll face, once again, more than likely, USC coming to face them here. I would not say coming. They will face USC up in Spokane, Washington, more than likely. That's the plan. So that's a first weekend winner. How about Colby Community College baseball and softball for winners of the weekend? My goodness, what a weekend it was. They went a combined 9-0. Did not lose a single game. I should say not 9-0 this weekend. They actually went what would have been 7-0 this weekend. Back on Thursday, Colby Community College swept Pratt in Pratt. This is the baseball team, mind you, 6-0, 9-6. Then turned around on Saturday and beat Pratt again, 7-4 and 7-6. While in the same motion, the softball team was able to be at home, and they took down, I believe it was all at home. I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah, I know. They were on Saturday. They were at North Platte, where they won convincingly 20-5 and 19-0. And then they had a makeup. They had to finish a game and then play a doubleheader. So they played 2.5 games pretty much on Sunday. 13-11, they beat Northeastern, and then 5-4 and 10-4. They took on Northeastern College for 2.5 games. They ended up winning all 3 of those. So a 5-0 weekend for Colby Community College softball, who now sits at 22-13 overall and 3-9 in the conference. And then for the Trojan men, they go 4-0 with their first Jayhawk League sweep of opponent. They take down Pratt all 4 games. And with that, they have really done some really good things. We had Ryan Carter on last week on the mornings talking about how his team has kind of put some things together after a slow start. You look back, and they've done a great job. They have now won 10 of their last 12 contests. Has the Colby Community College baseball team 10 of the last 12, gets them to 16-10 overall and 6-2 in the Jayhawk. And so Colby Community College baseball rolling right now. And up next, the baseball team will have a Tuesday doubleheader against Otero, and then they have Dodge City this upcoming weekend. Softball has a couple games scheduled for Wednesday down at Garden City. Those are their next games. But a great weekend, I thought, for Colby Community College softball and baseball. Once again, going a combined 7-0 from pretty much Saturday on. If you want to go back to Thursday, it went 9-0 a great weekend on the diamond for that. So those are my winners of the weekend. By the way, if you have winners, love to hear from you on the FB Bank text line at 785-899-2222. Losers of the weekend. I'll tell you, my biggest loser of the weekend was really the NCAA tournament. I don't, from the men's side, I'm just going to speak on the men's side here for right now. Did anybody else think that the tournament was kind of a snoozer? I mean, really the first round, the day number one was a real big snoozer. I mean, there were really no close games. It was pretty lopsided. And you could say that about a lot of the first round for the majority of it. Like I say, for the majority, you could say that the first round was lopsided. A lot of games that were decided by double-digit points or more. Well, not triple digits, but by 10 or more points. I'll put it that way. I mean, probably one of the better games was the Arkansas-Kansas game on day number one. And I know Clemson-McNeese was an entertaining score, but it was kind of lopsided for McNeese leading until they almost blew it. I just didn't think there were that many great overall games in day number one, a lot of lopsided wins. And there were really no upsets, honestly, in the first round. There were not a ton of just like, oh my gosh, that's a crazy upset. I mean, McNeese State over Clemson, I guess you consider that to be one of them. And Colorado State over Memphis, you could kind of consider that. If you want to consider Drake over Missouri, I didn't really consider that one. But from the way I guess I went into the opening round, I didn't think there were really any games that I just sat back and like, oh my goodness, that was a very, very, I don't know. I just was not highly entertained by that opening round. I was just not that highly entertained by that opening round. The second round was a little bit better. The games were a little bit tighter, yet there were still some lops. I mean, look at the scores. Auburn over Creighton by 12. Michigan beats Texas A&M by 12. You had a 13-point win for Ole Miss. Michigan State, I guess, won by 8. Of course, like I mentioned, we talked about it earlier in the show. The most exciting game in the tournament to this point, in my opinion, was the Maryland-Colorado State game. Colorado State hits a huge 3 with 3 seconds left to take the lead by 1, 70-71. And then Maryland gets it up half court, calls timeout, designs a play. Derek Queen drives the bucket, finishes off the window at the buzzer, 72-71. That was the most exciting game. It truly was. The most exciting game was that one of the first round. I just thought overall it was just not the most entertaining games of the deal. And when you look at the Sweet 16, here's your matchups in the Sweet 16. You get Auburn, Michigan, which is a 1-5. Ole Miss, Michigan State. And then Florida, Maryland, 1-4. Arkansas is the lowest seed remaining at a 10. They're taking on Texas Tech. You've got, on the opposite side of the bracket, Duke, Arizona, BYU, Alabama, all top 6 seeds in that bracket. And then all 4 top seeds advanced out of the Midwest with Houston, Purdue, and Kentucky, Tennessee. So overall, I'm not saying it's been total chalk, but it's been a lot of chalk. And usually we'll see, once again, the upsets in the first round, maybe in the second round. And because of that, you'll see a little bit of fun there. But I'm telling you, it was very chalky, I thought, the NCAA tournament. So I don't think that's what the NCAA tournament really wants. They want March Madness to have some madness to it. They want it to have buzzer beaters. They want to have a few upsets. They want to have some of that stuff. And they really didn't get it before you get to the Elite 8 and stuff, where the cream rises to the top and you see the top 2 or 3 seeds in each region standing. But just didn't see that as much, which, that's the way it played out. And we might see more of that in the coming years because of NIL and the portal, because you're going to see all the players that were maybe developed really well at the smaller schools, like your Akrons or your Yales or wherever it may be. They're transferring up into a bigger program like your Arizonas, your Michigans, whatever that may be. And then they're and then they're making those teams even better to where the other teams have a harder time. And so we may see more of this where it's just going to be a lot more chalk because the rich are going to get richer and it's going to be harder for the smaller schools to compete at times. We'll see. But I just thought overall loser of the weekend was kind of the first round of the NCAA, first couple of rounds of the NCAA tournament from the men's side. Just a lot of chalk, not a lot of upsets. And I don't think that's probably what NCAA probably really, really wants. They would like to have a little bit more entertainment. I would think that for sure. So Jared, by the way, chiming in saying that the portal does open today. And it does. It does. The portal does open today. And so free reign for everybody. Please, by all means, go out there and find yourself a new school. I tell you, one of the funniest things as a broadcaster, from the broadcaster's perspective, is listening to the broadcast. I don't care if it's radio or television, and they talk about so-and-so's at the free throw line. And, began his career at this school, and then 2 years ago went to here, and last year was over there, and now he made his way here. It was his fourth school in 4 years. That just is absolutely nuts to me. Usually it'd say, here's a senior, third year starter from this school, and he went to high school, in Goodland, Kansas, and so that would be what it'd be more like I'm used to. And just to hear, oh, this guy's in his fourth college in 4 years or his second college in 3 years. Just unique situation that we are in college athletics. But overall, loser of the week in the NCAA tournament, kind of blah, as Jared put it. I would agree. A lot of snoozers is how I would put that. A tough weekend for the Colorado Rockies. Look, we already know the Rockies are going to have a really tough season ahead of them. At least we all believe that. They recently signed a 1-year deal with a guy who could play a lot of different positions. Second baseman was going to play Taro Estrada, and he is out 4 to 8 weeks with a broken right wrist. And because of that, the Rockies had to trade outfielder Nolan Jones to the Guardians to get Tyler Freeman, who's a young man who has played a ton of positions, second, third, short, center field. He's been all over the place, but he only batted .209 with 7 homers and 32 RBIs, which is pretty similar to what Estrada hit last year, .217, 9 homers and 47 RBIs. I mean, just nothing seems to go right for the Rockies, and I feel bad for their fans. I feel bad for the fans for the Rockies. So, Rockies loser of the weekend. And my final loser of the weekend here as we wrap things up on weekend winners and losers. My love for Ben McCollum is going to have to go out the door. I was visiting with my mom last night, and she follows the sportsing world just as much as I do, if not more. And she was telling me that I was looking at hiring Richard Patino out of New Mexico. I'm like, all right, that would be great, because all I had heard is that Ben McCollum of Drake and formerly of my alma mater, North Missouri State, was going to be replacing Fran McCaffrey at Iowa. And the news came down today that he will be going to Iowa to replace Fran McCaffrey, will Ben McCollum. And makes me very sad, because I don't like Iowa. I want to beat Iowa as a Nebraska fan every single time and in every single sport. That hasn't been the case a lot recently. And I love Ben McCollum. I think he's a phenomenal coach. And I believe that if you can win at a Division II, a Division III, if you can win multiple national championships at those levels, if you can win where you have been, and then you go to the Division I level and you have a 31-4 season. Drake gets knocked out in the second round by a very physical and just more athletic Texas Tech team. Look, it's okay. I mean, I'm not mad about it. I thought they could have made it another step possibly, but hey, they could match up with them good enough. That's okay. It was still 31-4 in your first season. So impressive. So impressive. And now he's taking his coaching acumen and set to Iowa, where I believe he'll have another good program there. And talk about a complete different pace, style of basketball. If you're Iowa, Fran McCaffrey was about up and down the floor, up and down. How many threes can you get up, shooting at a free will? And now you've got Ben McCollum, who is this slow, methodical, just kind of work the ball down the floor, extra passes to get the perfect shot, and then really hard-nosed defense. I love Ben McCollum, but now I have to root against him because I don't want him to have any success at Iowa. So sad day. Ross, a loser of the weekend here on this Monday. So there you go. Weekend winners and losers here on the Morning Blitz. Brian chiming in FB Bank text line. Is the portal killing KU basketball, or has Self lost himself, or players not playing? Great question, Brian, and I'm glad you asked. We will ask that question to Henry Greenstein. He is our guest coming up here in about 5 minutes. He, of course, covers KU Sports for KUSports.com and also the Lawrence Journal World. So we're going to have our new guest, or he's not our brand new guest, but he's only been on one time with us, but really enjoyed. We'll have him on again. Henry Greenstein is going to join us coming up here in our next segment as we talk about KU basketball and their season come to an end and what to expect going forward in the coming years underneath Bill Self and KU basketball. So Henry Greenstein joins us next. Stick around. You're listening to the Morning Blitz here on a Monday.
Earl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland, Kansas is hiring now, looking for technicians of all levels and a service advisor to join their team. Enjoy competitive wages, consistent work, plus 401k and health benefits, all in a great work environment. If you're ready for a rewarding career with a trusted dealership, apply today. Visit them in person on South Commerce Road in Goodland or apply on Facebook. Join the Earl Chevrolet GMC family today.
It's time now for news from the world of agriculture on the Kansas Farm and Ranch Radio Network.
For the Kansas Farm and Ranch Radio Network, I'm Caitlin Walters. Corn ethanol has gotten a second wind from President Trump and GOP lawmakers' plans to pull the plug on electric vehicles. President Trump and Hill Republicans propose ending EV tax credits and Biden tailpipe emission rules that favor EVs, plus cutting charging station funding. The ethanol industry had expected gas ethanol-powered vehicle sales to slow as EV sales picked up, but now Renewable Fuels Association's Troy Brendenkamp says the playing field's being re-leveled.
Long term, we think that bodes well for the liquid fuel and the internal combustion engine. And in terms of liquid fuel, we think that we're one of the best options out there in terms of not only renewable, but emissions and obviously price friendly for the consumer.
Without EV tax credits, favorable tailpipe rules, and more chargers, the Washington Post reports industry experts see canceled investments and factory shutdowns. But what about hybrids that use both ethanol blends and electric power?
The hybrid vehicle also qualified for that tax credit. So the tax credit being eliminated would have an impact on hybrid technology. But I think at the end of the day, I think eventually both the consumers and the manufacturers hopefully get to the point where hybrid technology is the winner.
That would give ethanol a role in a best of both worlds technology, at least in light-duty vehicles. But Brendenkamp says the biggest prize remains in greenlighting nationwide year-round E15 sales.
That's going to lead to a lot more ethanol production. That's going to lead to a lot more corn grind and ethanol and corn demand, which is both very positive for the rural economy.
That was Troy Brendenkamp with the Renewable Fuels Association. For the Kansas Farm and Ranch Radio Network, I'm Caitlin Walters.
LivestockMarket.com offers all the tools you need.
Hello.
Morning, Henry. How are you doing today?
Good morning. I'm just fine. How are you?
I'm doing fine, sir. All right, buddy. We'll be coming to you here in about, just over a minute, okay? We'll be coming to you here in a minute.
All right. Sounds good.
Thank you, sir.
4C registration for use in Kansas and Montana fallow. Scorch EXT controls kochia plus other threatening broadleaf weeds like Canada and Russian thistle. Powered by Duplicent technology, this innovative three-way premix is developed in response to the rising storm of resistant kochia, including types resistant to glyphosate, 2,4-D, or fluroxapyr. Take back control with Scorch EXT from New Farm.
At FNB Bank, we understand the backbone of our community is our local farmers and ranchers. Whether you're growing crops, raising livestock, or investing in new equipment, we're here to help you succeed. Our agricultural loans are tailored to meet the unique needs of your farm, with flexible terms from people who understand what it takes to make it in agriculture. When you partner with FNB Bank, you're working with neighbors who know the land and are invested in your success. FNB Bank, rooted in our community, growing with you. Member FDIC.
It's the Morning Blitz with Ross Volkmer.
Hey everyone, come and see how good I look.
Your daily dose of sports.
Continuing on a Monday morning, more texts piling in here this morning about the travel or the non-travel call at the end of the Colorado State-Maryland game. I thought maybe this might strike some chords. I've got some friends and some acquaintances that are officials. One of them chiming in this morning saying 3 steps only allowed in the NBA. No such thing as a gather step in high school or in college. Only 2 steps allowed. So, okay, I'm with that. That was what I saw. That looked like more than 2 steps to me. Like I said, that looked like a travel in that Maryland game, which would have been cool to see Colorado State advance to the Sweet 16. Would have been really cool for Nico Medved, who I do believe is actually going to leave and go take the job at Minnesota. But nonetheless, it would have been really cool to see that happen for the Rams. But yeah, I've seen now from a couple people chiming in, saying that, just that should have probably been a travel. Let's get the opinion of our guest, Henry Greenstein, our guest from KUSports.com, and of course the Lawrence Journal World. Henry, did you watch that Maryland Colorado State game and the final shot? Was that a travel by Derek Queen? Your thoughts?
Yeah, that is a great question. I think that and maybe this isn't a great quality for a journalist, I have a tendency to get up in the grandeur of the moment, and I didn't even consider when I was watching that it might have been a travel, and of course you go online 5 seconds later, and your entire timeline is people exclaiming over it. I do think probably having rewatched it a couple times, I'm not sure he should have been able to get away with that. I also would have been stunned based on what I've seen in numerous basketball games over the years, even some involving the University of Kansas, it's not likely for something like that to get called a travel, but I totally understand anyone who's aggrieved about it this morning.
Henry Greenstein, our guest from the Lawrence Journal World and KUSports.com. Yeah, I don't know exactly where you want to sit on that. I'm with you, though. I in the moment, I was like, boy, that seemed like a lot of steps. And everybody like, oh, what a great shot. And then you're like, wasn't that a travel? No, apparently it wasn't. So, all right. So I guess we move on, and Maryland moves on. Unfortunately, the season came to an end very early for the Kansas Jayhawks. They lose to Arkansas in the first round of the NCAA tournament, 79-72. Just overall, what were your thoughts on that game from the Kansas perspective in that 7-point loss to the Hogs?
Yeah, I mean, it was extremely grim. When your emotional leader goes down with an Achilles injury with 3 minutes remaining, and then you proceed to turn the ball over like 4 times in the next 3 minutes, that's a pretty grim way to end a season. In some sense, that game really kind of encapsulated what KU's year was like. At times they played some of their worst basketball. At times they played some of their best basketball. They were in a position to win. And as we had seen so many times before, you think about West Virginia, even Missouri before that, when they cut the lead from 24-2. West Virginia, Missouri, Houston, Baylor, and then the second Houston game, Texas Tech. Just so many games throughout the year where they were in a position where numerous Bill Self teams of the past would have had the killer instinct and finished someone off. In this case, KU had the ball up 3, and Adams was starting to lead a breakaway when he just takes a no-contact injury and kind of ruined the whole thing there, unfortunately. And yeah, like I said, grim note to end the season on, grim note to end KJ Adams' career. Obviously a player who received a lot of ire from fans over the years, and but I'm sure that many of them have probably rallied around him in the wake of this. But yeah, a rather undistinguished season of KU men's basketball comes to an end with a pretty undistinguished loss to a 10-seed Arkansas, and I'm sure that KU fans were even more disheartened watching Arkansas go on to beat St. John's 2 days later.
Yeah, absolutely. KJ Adams, it is confirmed. Is it an Achilles injury? Has it been confirmed?
Yes, sir. Yeah, Self said that right after the game, both at the podium and the hallway afterward.
I mean, there's a lot of people I know that do love KJ Adams. There are other people that, thought that maybe they should move on and play more of Flory or somebody else in his spot at times this year. But I think that kind of showed he was kind of the heart and soul of this team this year, don't you think?
Oh, I agree with you completely. And Self says afterward, maybe we still make those turnovers if KJ's in the game. And I agree to some extent, but from an emotional standpoint, just having the stoppage where you have to watch your senior teammate hobble off the floor and into the locker room in immense pain. And then, like I said, instead of having a fast break with numbers, you're starting from nothing. You're only up by 1 possession. And then, Hunter Dickinson throws the ball to no one in particular because maybe Zeke Mayo was having a hard time breaking off some contact around the free throw line and was supposed to cut back to the pass. And Arkansas gets effectively a free bucket. It just kind of spirals from there. And I keep thinking about how if this game goes a little bit differently in those final 3 minutes, potentially if KJ doesn't get hurt, everyone is hailing this as Bill Self has still got it. The coaching legend broke out the zone for the first time all season and totally vexed John Calipari in Arkansas. And that could have been the narrative if things had gone differently. Instead, it's Bill Self is totally washed up, is what a bunch of people are saying online, and all this. And I think that nuance is something that gets lost in a lot of these conversations. But notwithstanding all that, and the way this game has come to be viewed in the days since, it was absolutely a down season for KU and vastly worse than anyone had anticipated going into the year.
Henry Greenstein, our guest from the Lawrence Journal World and KUSports.com, joining us here on the Morning's Blitz. Does Hunter Dickinson deserve as much blame for the previous 2 years as he has gotten from KU fans on social media, in your opinion?
No, I'm a little bit of a Hunter Dickinson defender. I think the production does not lie, and I understand people respond to that by saying that his shortcomings forced KU to play a certain way, and I tend to agree. But I also think that's the case with any player who becomes central to any team. And I think that if more of the players KU brought in around him had played up to their potential, you go back to last year and Nick Timberlake, you look at this year with Brown Griffin and AJ Storr. I think the vision for playing around Hunter Dickinson was there. It just didn't quite get executed in principle. Now, I am saying all this with the caveat that Dickinson had several games where he just vanished for entire halves or games and became a complete non-factor. And this just happened to be the NCAA tournament game that served as the final loss of his career. So not a good look for Hunter. But I do think that he's turned in so many performances where he single-handedly willed KU to victory. I mean, you look back at TCU in his first season where he made the game winner after drawing a flagrant foul, maybe with a little bit of an acting job at Allen Fieldhouse. You look back at this year, Colorado or Arizona on senior night. I mean, this is a guy who made 20 points and 10 rebounds look completely routine and often drew some of his harshest criticism for fans after games where he'd have like 19 and 12. You can't take that for granted. I suspect next year, even if Flory Badunga takes the large step forward that some people expect, and that I certainly do, I think that fans will look back and maybe have slightly more appreciation for Hunter Dickinson. It's hard to say. The problem is he will always be associated with the two worst seasons of the 21st century for Kansas basketball so far.
Henry, what about AJ Storr? Went out for 15 points on 4 of 7 shooting. I mean, that's the performance I think KU fans were hoping they would see from AJ throughout the entire season. It's kind of sad it just came in the final game of the year.
Yeah, it was so strange. I think this whole year was odd. Just watching AJ Storr and knowing he was a second-team All-Big Ten performer last year, felt like someone who was always thinking, never really got out of his head. Same with Brown Griffin to some extent. This is not a very flattering comparison, maybe, but the two games that AJ had late in the year where he suddenly played significantly better remind me a little bit of what Nick Timberlake did last year. Especially with one of them being in the first round of the NCAA tournament, like how Timberlake played well against Stanford last season. But it's just remarkable the way that this season went for him and the extent to which his role was minimized. I think that contrary to what you might hear from some people who follow the program, I do think that he got plenty of chances to prove himself and didn't take advantage. And I guess it's a testament to the patience of the KU coaching staff if they continue to give him more and more opportunities. And eventually it did pay off. You know, they don't win that UCF game without him scoring 19 in the Big 12 tournament. And if they had managed to pull off this game, he would have been a big reason why too. I actually think he probably played better against Arkansas than he did in that UCF game, just from an all-around standpoint. He made some of the off-balance shots and tough drives that everyone was expecting from Storr, but it's really hard to understand why it took until nearly a full year after he committed in the transfer portal for that to actually come to fruition.
Once again, Henry Greenstein is our guest from the Lawrence Journal World and KUSports.com. We had someone on our text line. Henry had a question. They were curious, is the portal killing KU basketball, or has Self lost himself, or are players just not playing? What do you think of those options from our listener?
Well, I think that's a very complicated question with a few possible roads to go down. One thing I would say is, it seems, and Self has said this himself, that they've recruited players and then tried to conform them to their existing style rather than recruiting players who fit their existing style. And I think that will probably change the way they choose to evaluate in this year's portal, which just opened about 8.5 hours ago at midnight. And I think that they will probably not go as much after the big marquee, big name people after what happened with Storr and Griffin. I think it's that simple. But as the middle part, as to whether the game has passed Self by or whatever, I mean, like I said, if a few things go slightly differently, we're looking at that zone decision as as another brilliant move in the Hall of Fame career, whereas now it becomes kind of a footnote because the team couldn't stop turning the ball over. I do think there's a certain point where the team's execution and mental fortitude this year was not up to par, which is just crazy for a team with such experience. You know, a sixth-year senior at point guard, fourth-year senior at power forward, fifth-year senior at center, and of course in Zeke Mayo, a transfer who was a fourth-year senior as well. It's remarkable that a team with that much cumulative experience continued to fail to execute. But in terms of the portal, yeah, I think we may see more attempts to find people who fit a specific niche rather than going after the best player available. That's just a hunch, and we'll see how that pans out in the next couple months.
What about the addition of Daryl Peterson, the young man? I mean, that's a humongous part of next season, right?
Oh, this is the thing of next season. I mean, part of the reason why you can afford to bring in peripheral pieces is because everyone's going to want to play with Peterson. I had the chance to watch him play yesterday. His high school team, Prolific Prep out in Napa, California, was playing on a circuit called the Grind Session, and they had their Final Four at Haskell Indian Nations University here in Warren. So it was a good opportunity for KU fans and writers and Bill Self and Curtis Townsend as well, because they were there, and even some KU players over the last couple of days to have a chance to take a look at their future teammate. He is incredibly quick and agile. He is a great flasher. We didn't see him take as many outside shots. That is a part of his game, though. He made a three from the corner yesterday. This is a guy who is currently the projected number one pick by ESPN in the 2026 NBA draft, even though he's only widely viewed as like the number 2 or 3 prospect in his class by recruiting services. But yeah, I mean, Bill Self has called him the best player he's ever recruited, and this is a guy who had Andrew Wiggins and Josh Jackson and those kinds of talents go one and done. So yeah, I mean, the ability to have Darren Peterson as the alpha of this team, and that it's already known before he even sets foot on campus, will set the agenda for what KU is looking for in the portal. However, there is still a lot of uncertainty as to who exactly stays or goes from this year's roster. And I think over the next few days, we're going to start getting some more concrete answers around that, because that will determine just how aggressive the KU staff has to be and how much NIL money they're going to have to commit. Well, I guess it's technically revenue sharing money now, looking ahead to next season. But yeah, it's going to be a tumultuous little stretch in the portal here.
Henry, what did you think of the first 2 rounds of the tournament just overall? I kind of thought before you came on, I was saying I thought it was kind of a bit of a snoozer. Not a lot of, super exciting games, not really any buzzer beaters, and honestly, a lot of, chalk. What were your thoughts on the opening rounds of the men's tournament?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I'm not going to have any super trenchant thoughts there, but it was a little, you come out of the first 2 rounds. The Cinderella team is a team coached by John Calipari with like a bunch of former 5-star prospects on it and such. It's not exactly how you draw up an opening weekend of March Madness. I do think there was maybe a little more drama in some of the games than people are giving it credit for, even if it resulted in chalky outcomes. I look at Wisconsin, BYU, Michigan, UC San Diego, Florida, UConn. Amazing shot by Walter Clayton yesterday, by the way. And the Maryland Colorado State game probably had the best finish, potential travel notwithstanding. So I do think that on a game by game basis, in terms of quality basketball for people to watch, there was a fair amount of intrigue. But I do agree that there hasn't really been a team for everyone to rally around as a nation, as we've seen in some years past. And for many people, that is a big part of the allure of March Madness. And that's why the first 2 days are my favorite. And so, yeah, it was a little underwhelming from that perspective. But I think that TV ratings will turn out to be good. And I think that, when you move on to the second weekend, it becomes less about that sort of thing anyway.
Henry, one more for you here I want to shift gears and go to football. What have you heard out of spring practice for KU football as they've worked their way? I bet they're almost halfway through spring practice. We've got to be close to it.
Yeah, so we had a couple weeks of it, and then they were off this past week for spring break, and then it resumes tomorrow. One notable thing is they just announced they weren't going to hold a spring showcase this year, which is obviously a big trend among college football programs. Their stated reason is that there were logistical issues with using Rock Chalk Park as the venue for it, as they did last year. It was going to be April 11th, but that's not happening. So that's kind of the biggest spring football news of the day. That came out a few days ago. And then overall, I mean, it's just a totally different feeling in a lot of different ways. For one thing, it's an entirely new roster. Besides Jalen Daniels and a few familiar faces on either side of the line, I think that it will take fans a long time to get to know these players. I think 22 transfers, and then a double-digit number of freshmen as well, about half of whom are already enrolled early. So, it's just funny as a reporter going in there on a day-to-day basis and like meeting so many players for the first time, whereas over the last 3 years, it was kind of the same faces every weekend. I mean, you think about how the continuity they had in their receiving core. They just lost their top 5 guys. And now it's a transfer from Alabama, transfer from Ball State, transfer from Albany, and then over the summer, a transfer from Columbia coming in. It's anyone's guess how this team will line up on August 23rd against Fresno State. And that's even from a schematic perspective with 2 different coordinators. They really have been reluctant to reveal too much about how exactly things are going to go, even from a kind of a base defense standpoint. DK McDonald, the new defensive coordinator, is his first gig in that role. I mean, I feel confident KU is going to stay as a 4-man front. But beyond that, McDonald's a guy who was in the NFL with the Eagles. He played, he coached under a 3-man front, a coordinator in John Haycock at Iowa State. He's bringing in a lot of influences, but he has not revealed very much about how exactly he's bringing those influences to bear on KU's defense. And I think that that's by design. I think we'll learn a little bit more over this next half spring practice, but I think on the whole, there will be this KU football team will be shrouded in mystery until that Fresno State game. And depending on how the Fresno State game goes, possibly even until they go to Missouri in the 3rd week of the season. It will take a long time for us as a whole to start to understand the identity of this year's Jayhawks.
Well, we've got multiple months, Henry, to talk more about the football season. That is for sure. And we will dive more into that as we push forward. Henry Greenstein of the Lawrence Journal World and KUSports.com. Henry, great to have you on. Thank you for spending some time with us this morning. We'll catch up soon.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Once again, great stuff there from Henry Greenstein here on the Morning Blitz. He does a great job covering KU sports, has a lot of information and a lot of good stuff about lots of different things. And even get to ask him about KU baseball, which is having a phenomenal year, being a top 25, top 30 team in the country. All right, we'll get to our final break. We'll come back. We'll wrap the show next. You're listening to the Morning Blitz here on a Monday.
Get ready for the Schilling Cattle Production Sale Wednesday, March 26th at 1 p.m. Central Time. With 60 Angus and 5 Limflex bulls and 10 Angus heifers, there's plenty to choose from. These are big, stout performance kind of cattle and great selection for Cavanese bulls. Check them out on Facebook at Schilling Cattle, or you can also watch the sale at TV Auction. The sale is located 6 miles north of the I-70 Exchange in Brewster, Kansas. Come check out great cattle, meet great people, and best of all, eat some fantastic food. So don't forget to mark your calendars for the Schilling Cattle Production Sale Wednesday, March 26th, 6 miles north of Brewster, Kansas.
Spring is here, and Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware has everything you need for the season. Get your lawn looking its best with Ultimate Fertilizer and power up with Ego blowers and mowers. Got a project? They got a surplus of lumber ready to go. Plus, fire up the fun with their selection of grills and griddles. Hoover's is also proud to sponsor the Pioneer 5K, 10K, half and full marathon supporting Colby Community College cross country on April 26th and remind you to sign up and participate. It's Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware in Goodland and Colby, your one-stop shop for spring.
H&R Block has many options to make filing your taxes easy. Our tax pros can help you get your max refund with or without the office visit. Drop in, drop off, or a tax pro can even do your taxes virtually. Send some pics from your phone without leaving home. Just another way Block has your back.
All tax situations are different. Not everyone gets a refund.
Hi, this is Ashley from your locally owned H&R Block. We'll get you every dollar you deserve with or without the office visit.
The Farmers State Bank of Oakley has been financing agriculture since the day we opened our doors. Hello, this is Corbin, and we are proud to be your locally owned partner in ag. We invite you to come and visit with us when you need to purchase new or used farm equipment, or need any type of agriculture or business loan. We have the knowledge, experience, and financial resources to keep you growing. The Farmers State Bank of Oakley, a tradition of community and agriculture for over 115 years. Member FDIC.
Your livelihood is important to you. You work hard to succeed in your farming operation, crop, livestock, home, vehicles, and special needs. We have you covered. Discounts are available for new business, remodeling, hail-resistive roofing, multi-policy, and many more. Optional coverage endorsements as well for machinery, ingestion, and equipment breakdown. Umbrella coverage for additional coverage on your home, farm, and auto. See the girls at the insurance agency at 1020 Main in Goodland or call 785-899-5011.
High drive, deep left, grand slam!
And back lifts his ball high and deep to right. How about a walk-off three? Thomas to the 10. Denver's going on to New England. They win it on the first play of overtime. Mahomes swings it. It's there! Hardman! Jackpot! Kansas City!
Okay, plenty of things to get to here in the walk-off. First and foremost, Royals have added depth to their outfield. They added, I think it's Mark Canha, or Cana is how you say his name, from the Brewers on Saturday. He's 36 years old. He's pretty much my age. But he was in Brewers camp on a minor league deal. He was just 2 for 23 in spring training with a home run. He does provide a little bit of pop, but he had a couple really good years up in New York with the Mets. And last year between Detroit and San Francisco at 242 with 7 long balls and 125 games. So I don't know if it's much of a addition, but it's a little bit more added depth to their outfield. The Royals added Mark Canha. Real quickly before we get out of here, I did see on the comments of Facebook, our very own Max Gershon, he wanted to pass along a message to all of our listeners saying thank you to everyone. Covering the Eagles was a blast and meeting all the great people and doing the morning blitz. It's a great way to start my career and look forward to future endeavors. Of course, rock, chalk, and go Royals. Of course. How else would Max end it? But yeah, I miss Max today, but we wish him the best going forward. That is for sure. Also, interesting thing I saw on social media. So last night after that Maryland game between Colorado State and the Terps, they were having, of course, the player and coach interviews. And Maryland players were asked what makes their coach, Kevin Willard, worth listening to. And their star player who made the shot, Derek Queen, initial response was, he do pay us the money. And Kevin Willard's reaction was burying his hands in his face. Yes, that is today's college sports, people. Why do we listen? Because we get paid to listen. Otherwise, if we didn't get paid, we wouldn't be here. So the only reason we're here is money. Gotta love college sports nowadays, don't you? It's so transactional. So transactional. All right, that'll do it for our program today. Thanks again for listening. Back again tomorrow in 23 hours for a Tuesday edition of the Morning Blitz. Hope you tune in then. This has been the Morning Blitz. Have a good one.
Rocket 102.5.